So it is perhaps the biggest gambling season of all times, of all years coming up, and it's March Madness. It just started. This is March Madness official weekend. So my question to you is, who you got? Like, who's your team? Who are you rooting for? Who are you gonna watch?
I think I'm probably I'm rooting for the Cleveland Browns. Oh, wait a minute. We're talking about an entirely different sport, aren't we?
You don't. Do you even watch college basketball?
I do,
You even
actually.
know there's a sport
No, I
called
do.
basketball?
I do. I watch when it gets to the 16, when it gets to Sweet 16 is when I tune in. I don't have a dog in the hunt. I don't care.
You don't
I'm
have
always,
like your
I
final
love
two.
watching it. I
Do you
love
even do a
watching college
bracket?
basketball.
Do you do a bracket at all?
I don't do a bracket. No, I don't do. I'm not knowledgeable at all in college basketball.
That doesn't have anything to do with it. I mean, that's still the people do brackets.
Well, right. Yes, I know
You
that's Tuesday for most people, but yes, it's yeah, I do understand that. But I don't care. I like watching it because college basketball to me is where you can see plays, like you can still see plays. It's so different than the NBA because you can. It's why I like women's basketball too. I love watching college women's basketball. It's when it gets to that part, it's so wonderful because you can actually see the strategy, the plays, and they're not just running up and down the court and dunking it. Right? There's actual finesse to it. So I like it, but I don't care. I don't care.
Well, since you asked, I think it's
Yeah,
going to be Saint. I think it's going to be St. John's this year. I think St. John's, Coach Rick Pitino is going to take it all the way. Not that you care. So, but now you know that's the team that we're rooting for because that's the team I have.
I will keep them in my heart. St. John's with Coach Pitino.
Thank you for your support.
Just remember, everybody has your story to tell. Tell it well on This Old Marketing.
And now, for your listening pleasure, here's Pulizzi and Rose, covering the week of media, marketing, and digital content news. This Old Marketing. Take it away, boys.
Welcome to This Old Marketing, proudly brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network, the audio destination for business professionals. And I'm Robert Rose. Welcome to episode number 472 for Friday, March 21st, 2025. And with me, as usual, my pal, my colleague, and a guy who's definitely currently poring over the newly released JFK Files, Mr. Joe Pulizzi.
You're so soft-spoken today.
Am I?
It's just, I mean, it is. People don't know. This is early for you because
it is. Well, yeah, it's very early. Am I quiet, or is it just my tone is soft spoken?
This is just it's the new Robert Rose. It's the new laid back that you don't care about anything. You're just gonna go through life. Is that it, or you're just tired of yelling so much?
Like, I don't
know what it is. Get off my lawn.
It's just it's pure resignation, my friend. I see what's going on in the world and I just go, oh shit.
You've finally given up. I was wondering how long it was going to take, and it's the first day of spring in 25. That's the day.
So I have to tell you, a friend of mine posted on LinkedIn. He's been frustrated by his job hunt. And he's been really looking for a job for a while. And so he asked ChatGPT to give him a pep talk. And basically ChatGPT, it was very funny. He asked ChatGPT to do it as a drunk guy in a bar, give him a pep talk as a drunk guy in a bar. And basically the very last line of the ChatGPT comment was, "Stay in the fight, eat the fries." And I thought that was great. That was great life advice. Just stay in the fight and eat the French fries. Yep.
Speaking of JFK, I heard they didn't find very much. Like they did.
I haven't heard anything. So, I mean, it's 64,000 pages, so I guess there's a lot of nothing there. But yeah,
there's no second grassy knoll or anything like that.
I mean, I've seen some TikToks where the guy's like, "This frame from the Zapruder film and this frame has 16 millimeters out of sync with the." It's like, okay, all right, fine.
It's the magic bullet.
Yeah.
The magic bullet did it.
Yeah.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, well, I mean, it's out and about, and yeah, another good deed by the Trump administration. I think
Yeah.
it's
They're
really
just
good
they're
to
just crushing it.
give
Yeah.
that
They're just
information
crushing
out.
it with
But
all
that,
the
not that we're
media.
going to talk about, not that we're going to talk about that today. We're
Yeah,
not.
we're going to talk a
You're
little
not.
bit about it, but yeah, but
Are we? Why are we doing? Why are we doing?
well,
I
we're
guess
going to
we
talk.
are.
Yeah, later
I
we're going to
guess I
talk.
put it in. I put it in
Yeah.
one of the things that one
Yeah.
of the actions I think
Yeah.
is marketing related.
It's your well, we're going to open the show with it, and we're actually going to close the show with it. So there's
Oh, are we gonna do? Oh yeah, I guess we are. I forget. See,
yeah. You're going
everything
to
is.
talk about something. You're going to talk about it. So
Yeah,
your
I think so.
rave later or rant, basically.
But the good news is
Yeah.
that this is the time of year I love because it's the beginning of baseball season, and it takes
It's
my
very.
mind off of
I will
other
tell you
things.
this. I have been paying attention more to baseball. I mean, mostly because I'm a Dodgers fan, and I've been watching the Japanese, them play. They were playing in Tokyo, and that's been really fun. That's been really I'm loving the opening of baseball season.
So yeah, I'm very much and nobody's picking the Cleveland Guardians to do anything this year because they didn't get any big free agents. They just kept status quo. But Bill Nye, the science guy, predicted the Guardians to win the World Series, and I feel like that's something. I mean,
yeah. Is he a Cleveland guy? I didn't know he was a Cleveland guy.
I don't think he is. I think it was one of those short videos where he's just walking down the street and they say, "Hey Bill, who you picking for the World Series?" And he said, "The Cleveland Guardians." And everybody's like, "What? Like, why would you do that?" I'm like, "Now he's my favorite guy." I'm
Pluto's a planet, and the Cleveland Guardians are going to take the World Series.
Speaking of the space men and women, the astronauts finally came home.
They did. They did.
Do you think that do you think that they do what we do, where they get home and they like immediately rush to unpack?
Oh,
And like put their stuff in the washing machine. Like, what do you
do?
do?
I don't think they come home with any stuff. I don't think they actually have any stuff to bring with them. I mean, I think maybe they have like a little go bag that they
little
have.
tchotchkes or something like that.
Like,
you don't take anything with you. I mean, like
I think you got to take a souvenir of some kind. I mean, you were up there for how long were they up there? 9 months or 12, 13 months?
260 days, 260 plus days. They're supposed to be up there a week or so. Yeah, that's nuts. Oh, and don't they bring like MP3 players or something with music on it, like a Zune, Microsoft Zune or something like that? You got to have
now all I can think of is like Guardians of the Galaxy. They've got like their 80s cassette Mr. Walkman, right?
Well, I'm just thinking of The Martian with Matt Damon, and they had these boxes of the stuff that they loved from home, the pictures and albums, and I guess you don't do that.
I don't know. Well, they weren't supposed to be up there that long, right? That's the thing. So I'm sure they didn't plan for being up there for 9 months, whatever it was.
Here's my serious question, and I know there's an answer, but I like to pose these questions but not look them up and never really know the truth.
Fantastic.
Like some people. What do they do for food? Because they're only planning to be up there a couple days, but they're up there and they couldn't like grow potatoes like Matt Damon did. So how'd they get all the extra food?
Well, there's regular. Well, okay, you don't want to know the answer, so I'm not going to tell you the answer. How about that? You just go.
I just want to put it out there, so there is an answer.
Yeah, there is an answer. I will tell you that there is an answer to that. Yeah,
it's Star Trek, right? It's basically can I have a cup of Earl Grey hot, please?
Pretty much. That's that, and I think RFK is making special deliveries of McDonald's. Yeah, that's what it is.
I saw a stupid meme where it's RFK and he says bringing back measles.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh jeez.
Right.
I'm like
making measles great again. Yeah.
Making measles great again.
Yeah.
Yes, I love that these things are coming back that are completely unavoidable. Anyways, we have a show.
We do have a show.
Yeah.
We absolutely have a show. We're going to open up. Yes, as I mentioned, and it's all Joe's fault. We're going to open up with ad spend, marketing spend may be affected by the new tariffs that have been put into place, but we're going to talk a little bit about that. Then Anthropic CEO, as stupid is as stupid does, says code will be written by AI in 3 to 6 months and basically putting all coders out of work. We'll talk a little bit about that. You can sort of already get a prediction of my response to that. AI slop is the next story about AI slop, and it's the new brute force attack. Very interesting story coming out of one of Joe's and my new favorite media outlets, 404 Media. Then we'll get to some questions. We actually have questions from you that we're going to get to, and Morgan gave us a great question that we'll get to after the break. And then, of course, we'll get to winners and losers, where I will talk about the loser that is Unilever this week. Joe will talk about the NFL and scheduling, and I'm sure that'll be fascinating. And then we'll get to our rants and raves, where I'm going to rant a little bit about Adobe's announcement this week at Adobe Summit about agentic AI and just basically agentic AI in general. And Joe's going to finish us off with the show on another political note about the banning or the defunding or the beheading, if you will, of the VOA, the Voice of America. And we'll talk a little bit about that and how it applies to marketing and communications these days. So
excellent
show, as it were.
Just so everyone knows, before we started this broadcast, we were thinking about, we didn't really want to do the show, but you're like, well, we're already here.
Yeah.
So we might as well
do
the show. The second thing that I noticed is last week, Unilever was a rave. And this week, it's a rant. See how fast, quick.
Things change, man.
Change so quickly around here.
Things change. Did I rave about Unilever last week?
No, I did.
Oh,
I did. And their influencer strategy, where they're upping their influencer budget to 30 to 50% of their overall budget.
Yeah,
I think it was me. Anyways, one of us did.
It was a story that we covered for sure. We liked this. We liked the all-inness of it.
Yeah.
It's
who knows? It was so far. Like, I can't remember last week. So
here's the thing. It gets to the question. So Morgan asks a great question about actually, about where brands should be standing on the sidelines of politics these days, and we have some takes on that for sure. And then, but this is a great example of that. So my rant is, as it were, is what Unilever is doing with Ben and Jerry's ice cream. So it's very fascinating.
Okay. All right.
Here
we go.
Well, let's get to our first story. Our big story. We should have music for that. We should have music for our big story this week.
I can give you music. I got music in here. I mean, let's see, what do we got here?
There we go. It's the big story. The big story from PNR.
Oh, all right. So I'll try to, every time you introduce a story now, I'll try to give you a little music.
Ooh.
This is gonna go horribly wrong.
Our listeners are loving this. All right, here we go. This comes to us courtesy of Axios, which is covering this, and the headline here is, that big ad growth is going to slow. The article opens up by saying President Trump's economic policies will slow advertising growth in the U.S. through at least 2027, according to a new projection. While analysts anticipated unpredictability with the new administration, the extent of economic volatility has proven greater than previously expected, according to Brian Weiser, a top advertising analyst. Specifically, the president's trade policies pose more extreme threats to supply chains and corporate decision-making than previously expected. In a new forecast published today, Weiser said he is reducing his expectations for U.S. advertising growth in 2025 and beyond, calling for a 3.6% growth, excluding political advertising, down from his previous projection of 4.5%. That slowdown will feel more prominent in the second half of the year, when the full consequences of the new policy changes are felt. And the article goes on to then describe, some of the past levels of ad growth, and we're seeing, and kind of also admit in a weird way that, it's still growing. By the way, it's still going to grow this year. But what they're saying is that the growth will be slowed by the unpredictability. I definitely have a take on this, but what do you think? What do you think about all of this from an advertising and marketing spend and where brands should be?
So let's just say that things continue the way they are. Things might end. Like, you never know. There was tariffs done, everything's done there. Theoretically, that could happen. We don't see that happening. We see a continued uncertainty in the marketplace. And when there's an uncertainty in the marketplace, you have a chance of running into a marketing recession. And we ran into something similar to this in, 08, 09, 10, a little bit in 15. But yeah, I mean, these things happen where you get so much uncertainty in the marketplace. marketing budgets are halted. I don't know. I mean, I've heard from a few people that they are holding steady, like see what happens. And when you hold steady and you see what happens, you don't get the budgets that were made even to be enacted, and you don't get the advertising, you don't get the marketing, you get ideas for podcasts and YouTube videos and content marketing projects that are on hold. You get contracts with consultants that are put on hold. Nobody likes it. It's a terrible environment because you'd rather just have the no. You know, if it's gonna, I want to know yes or no if it's gonna happen. But in this environment, we just don't know. It's the worst environment you could have, and it seems like we're going to be in it. Now, that said, there's also opportunities, because if you are, let's say, a content creator and you know that your competition is on hold with a lot of their activities, and you can move forward and be the ones that, you know, don't stop. You and I had this opportunity when we launched Content Marketing Institute in 09, 10, and 11, because the people that should have launched a Content Marketing Institute or a Content Marketing World did not, because their budgets were on hold. Their new projects and new events were on hold. And we said, let's go forward. And it was the perfect environment to launch something. So that's kind of what I'm seeing now is, hey, this is built for the bold. Move forward. We can do something with it. But in most cases, this is just a terrible marketing and advertising environment to be in.
Yeah. Well, here's what I would say to that is I think you're right at the macro level. I think you're right, which is this, it's a lot of wait and see. Like, it's a lot of like, everybody's got their antenna squarely up to try and create at least some level of predictability, because that's what it is right now. It's just, things can change quite literally within a week. Yeah. We are week to week when it comes to this stuff, because it's so capricious about what's happening, what the percentage is, what goods are being tariffed, what the economic policy is, which agencies getting cut, where the unemployment is. And I mean, it's just sort of, where the stock market is, how it's being driven by, the stock market right now is, people tend to forget that the stock market right now as a macro indicator is really driven by about 10 stocks right now, and most of them technology stocks. And so when you look at the US stock market, it's really frothy and very hard to predict right now in terms of what's going on with valuations, because it's so up and down with regard to Tesla and what's going on in the tech market space, NVIDIA and
Google,
all of
Amazon,
that, right?
Yeah.
And then you look over at the pond and you look at the European value stocks, and they're doing fine. They're growing, they're doing their thing, especially, it's been, interestingly enough, the defense industry stocks in Europe are doing well. And so it could be a tale of two cities, right? Where we are, very quickly creating this frothy environment here in the US, but the rest of the world sort of just says, okay, well, now the halo effect, or the, everything else being, there's just no doubt about it. The US creates big waves, right? When it moves. So the things that I'm seeing it's sector by sector, right? I see a lot of sector by sector activity. In other words, I'm seeing a lot of associations, nonprofits, sort of seeing opportunity, honestly, to fill a lot of gaps and to drive a lot of participation with their constituencies and their stakeholders and donations. There's a lot of room I'm seeing run with that. I'm also seeing a lot of activity in professional services sectors, like accountants and law firms and those sorts of things. And then I'm also seeing real pullback, travel and leisure, for sure. Like travel and leisure companies, whether they're airlines, whether they're hotel chains, whether they're travel is getting it, like they are putting a freeze on stuff because they don't.
And rightly so. I mean, you and I know dozens of people who stopped their plans to the United States.
Yeah.
So from that standpoint, and
well,
then,
one of our biggest clients is one of the largest hotel chains in the world, and they have put a full freeze on everything. Right. So Yeah, new headcount, new marketing initiatives, they've just really said, and I mean, they haven't explicitly said this in their earnings reports or anything like that, but what seems to be the story is like they are anticipating a real pullback in terms of travel. So, which I think is a safe prediction, especially when you have, Europeans coming over and getting denied entry because they have bad tweets about Trump on their phone, which it's like crazy, but it's true. I mean, so it's a little bit of
it's a scary environment.
Yeah.
For sure.
It's well, I'm not scared. I don't feel scared from a marketing perspective because I see a lot of activity. But there's also that uncertainty. And I think you said it best. This is a time to be bold, right? This is the time for boldness and to make decisions based on strategy and based on planning rather than fear-based decisions. And I think that's the only way you can operate in this kind of environment.
I talked to someone the other day that they have a friend that runs diversity events. And of course, that's just a really interesting place to be. They're selling out their overcapacity because education is needed more than ever in that area because you're getting this backlash against it right now. So to your point, change brings huge opportunity. So
sure,
maybe we're, whoever's listening to this show, you see where you're at and say, okay, who's stopping their spending? Who's stopping their content programs? Where are there going to be micro content deserts around that you can fill in the gap and, be that bold spender when everybody else is pulling back?
And that's so, and you bring up a really great point, which is another, maybe this is me being hopeful here, but what I kind of see, and again, I may be reading sort of in the tea leaves something that's not there. So take this with a grain of salt. But what I kind of can see is if advertising becomes more expensive because of the cost of product, because of, where we have to raise prices, where companies have to raise prices on things, and then thus it sort of has a trickle effect to the inflation of advertising prices. I am seeing sort of a refocus or a re-emphasis on owned media and first-party data. So it's like, let's get our house in order so that we're really bolstered up, because we can put a little of that budget that we would have put into advertising into our owned media and first-party data acquisition so that we can continue to market to people, through email and through targeting and personalization. And I see companies starting to take that a little more seriously now. I'll get to this when we get to AI and talking about Adobe and their announcements, but that idea of getting our data house in order, it does seem to be sort of getting some traction.
I would love to see that. I mean, I would love to see some positive things come out of what's going on right now. It's hard to see right now, but there you go.
Absolutely. Let's do this. Let's pay our bills now, and then we'll get to our next, because we're going to pair two stories next together. So let's pay the bills and do our own advertising and get paid.
It's very smart.
Expensive.
It's a very smart decision.
It's very definitely not more expensive with us. So there you go.
Marketing in 2025 is wild. Savvy customers spot fake messaging instantly. Privacy changes make ad targeting a nightmare, and everyone needs more content than ever before. That's why you have to check out HubSpot's new Marketing Trends Report. It doesn't just show you what's changing, it shows you exactly how to deal with it. Everything's backed by research and focused on marketing plays that you can use now. Ready to turn marketing hurdles into results? Go to clickhubspot.com/marketing to download it for free. Do you want a profitable new podcast to listen to? Well, let me introduce you to Content is Profit, hosted by Louise and Fonzie Camejo and brought to you by the HubSpot Podcast Network. Discover the secrets and strategies on how your business can achieve the frictionless sale. On Content is Profit, they talk about frameworks, strategies, tactics, and they bring special guests in to bring you all the information you need in order to turn your content into profit. Yeah, funny how that works out. You can find Content into Profit wherever you follow your favorite pods.
Just goes. I was like really up, and then I get with one music, and then I get very laid back with your second choice, and
Yeah, that last one. That second one is a good one for a couple of edibles. I'm just gonna say that.
And I guess we need a new sponsor to fill that slot.
Oh, I would love that. That would be so awesome.
Oh, you start selling something. You start selling something here. Let's go. You have the contacts in that. I don't have contacts in the edible side.
I don't have any contacts. I mean, I have one contact where I buy my edibles, but I don't
have one contact that used to meet on the street corner, and now you just text.
It's all good. It's like going to the supermarket. It's like it's like going to the supermarket, but the only thing is it's all very advanced these days. Like you just literally go online, you fill your shopping cart with what you want, and then you go pick it up. They'll deliver it too, by the way, but I just go pick it up because it's super easy to pick up. You walk in the store. The only thing that looks a little bit like, I don't even the slightest bit funky is that the counter that you pick it up from is like a little window. Like it's a little tiny, it's like the doctor's office window. Like they open up, they go, and they go, "What do you want?" And you're like, "I have my pickup," and they're like, "Wait a minute," and then they close the door, and then they come out with a bag, all your stuff, and you go, "Thank you very much," and then you're done.
Is it all cash business, or can you pay with a credit card?
No, you can pay online. Yeah, you don't even pay there, right? You pay online with your credit card, and you're.
I didn't know that. Yeah, I thought maybe they've changed that. I thought initially they had to. Maybe that's just Ohio. You had to be all cash business.
I think you have to pay. Now, I may be getting this a little wrong because honestly, my credit card and my debit card are I have the same, right? So that's where I do my personal expenses.
Sure.
So I believe it might be a debit. Like you might be using it as a debit card in that particular case, not a credit card.
Well, speaking of edibles, let's talk about AI.
Exactly. Let's definitely talk about AI. All right, here we go.
Wait, hold on. Let me give you something here. Let's see what I got.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We're going to talk about AI and the Anthropic CEO and how it's all coming to an end. And we're going to die.
Yeah, we're talking about AI. Okay.
This is fun. I like it.
Yeah, nobody else does, but we all have fun with it.
I like it. Oh, they're going to love this. They're going to love this. All right. This is coming courtesy of Entrepreneur. And the CEO of Anthropic, Dario, is it Amodei or Amodei?
Amodei.
Yeah,
Amodei. We'll get it right next time. Amodei.
I'm just gonna say Dario.
Okay.
The headline is, quote, "I do have a fair amount of concern." The CEO of $61 billion Anthropic says AI will take over a crucial part of a software engineer's job within the year. They recently raised $3.5 billion and backed by Google and Amazon. The article opens up by saying the CEO of leading AI startup Anthropic says that AI could soon take over a key component of software engineering, jobs, coding. Anthropic CEO Dario said earlier this week that AI will write 90% of the code for software engineers within the next 3 to 6 months of every line of code within the next year. On the job side of this, I do have a fair amount of concern, he said at a Council of Foreign Relations event on Monday. In 12 months, he said, we may be in a world where AI is essentially writing all of the code. How much of software engineer's job is coding? Well, it varies on the role, but some software developers on Reddit estimate that about half their job or more consists of writing code. And then Dario reassured listeners, tried to reassure, I'm sure, that software developers should still have jobs for now. I'm going to get into a rant on this very quickly. Humans are needed now to give the AI the design features and limitations it needs to write code, he said. But over time, he says, AI will be able to take over those tasks too. And then they have a very fancy picture of Dario looking like he just, I don't know, it looks like he just farted on stage is what it looks like to me. I don't know about you.
Wait, what? What are you talking
about? Look at the picture.
Hold on. Let's bring it up here. Let's bring it up so we can
put the picture up there. Like, I mean, doesn't he look like he just farted and went, sorry. Sorry, that was kind of a wet one there.
That might be his normal look. So he normally, and maybe he's just constipated.
Do you remember the
maybe
show
he's not
The
drinking enough
Americans?
water. It could be a dehydration issue.
Yeah. Do you remember the show The Americans? Did you ever watch that show The Americans?
No.
Great show, by the way. Great, wonderful show. He looks like the lead actor in that show. Anyway.
Okay, I'm with you.
Not for nothing.
I
We
know
digress.
you really want to like throw a big rant at this, and you hate how these CEOs make these big projections, and I want you to go on your rant. So I'm going to have you do that right now. But all I'm going to say, is that the big tech companies are hiring and firing like this is a thing, or they're using it as an excuse.
Well, yeah. So that's the two. You've just hit on the two things, right? Right. So whether or not it's a good decision or not, I think only history can write that. But if here's my so I have two mini rants on this, right? The first is that this is becoming sort of the du jour, de rigueur, if you will, sort of way that these CEOs and mostly these sort of frontier model CEOs are coming out and saying and getting press, right? Which is make some proclamation about how the world is going to be forever changed, usually ending with something like it's going to take every job in the world is going to be taken over, with AI, and it's a new world order. And we have to have, a new way of doing business in the world because AI, personless companies, will be running the world, and there will be AI driven companies that have 0 people in it, but they will be billion-dollar entities.
The first billion-dollar company that has no employees.
Right.
I
and then, and then they make this proclamation, and then every single time the interviewer usually goes, "So what do we do about it?" And the CEO inevitably goes, "I don't know. I don't know. We're just going to figure it out." And it's like, it drives me nuts. It drives me absolutely nuts that they have the temerity to say everything's going to be different, but they have no idea how we should be preparing for it or what we should do about it. And so it just strikes me that all of that is built in for the clicks, right? You do it for the lulz, you do it for the clicks, and you're trying to get press on saying something provocative out there so that it attracts attention to your company.
And it works.
It's a marketing parlor trick, and it works. And it's annoying as hell, because here's the thing, in all of this, you look at that and you go, it's just not helpful. It's not a helpful part of the conversation to make everybody freak out and sell the fear, the uncertainty, and the doubt about what's going to go on without having at least an opinion on what we should be doing to prepare for it, or doing something to help people prepare for it. Yep. There has to be a second half to that argument if you're ever going to, get out there. And it just happened again. I commented on Jeannie Dietrich had a wonderful post talking about an interview that she heard online where the guy said the exact same thing, basically that, we're all, marketers are going to be out of a job in 3 to 6 months because agentic AI is going to take it over. And then he did the perfect thing. We capped it off with, unless we get ready for it. Right. And then the interviewer says, well, what does that mean? Get ready for it. He's like, I don't know. We're just going to, it's like that old
push-ups.
Yeah. Like
strength training.
There's a great scene.
Water.
Yeah. There's a great scene. There's a great scene in Shakespeare in Love, one of my favorite movies, Shakespeare in Love, Tom Stoppard. Oh, amazing writer. So in Shakespeare in Love, he says, the director who's put up the play for Shakespeare, and he's like, wait a minute, how does this end? We don't know how it's going to end. And the producer goes, well, it's going to be fine. And he's like, how do you know? He says, because it's not the end yet. So it's like, God, I don't know. We'll figure it out. It's like, so good. Anyway, I get off on a rant on that because it's just so annoying for these kinds of headlines. And here's the thing we have to be able to recognize what good. If 50% of a developer's job is writing code, okay, then 50% of their job goes away. But then does it immediately get filled by reviewing the code that the AI has written and making sure that it's good and making sure that it's proper and doesn't have backdoors written into it, and so that there's, who was it? I think it was Galloway made a great point on this on his podcast. Maybe was it Galloway? It may not have been Galloway, who basically said, you're going to have these startups that are now, and this is happening, where they're in like Y Combinator types of thing, where the entrepreneurs aren't engineers, right? They're just literally doing non-code. Oh, this, who that was? It was Paul Reutzer who was talking about this. He's, by the way, one of the only people talking out there about the real need to prepare for this stuff.
Yes.
And he said, there are these startups that are doing sort of just text to code and building these sort of prototype apps. He said, all it's going to take is for one of these apps to go big and totally fail because the AI code isn't scalable, for it to all fall on its face. And so there's so much risk here that it needs to be reviewed and all of that. It's just, I don't buy it. I don't buy the whole 3 to 6 month thing. I really don't.
I heard that's called vibe coding. Have you heard this?
Yes, that's
vibe
it.
Coding?
That's it. Thank you.
I just heard it last week. I'm like, and then apparently it's a thing. And that's exactly what you're doing. Basically, you're building some kind of app via prompts, different prompts, and you're putting in the AI code and whatever, and you're building a thing. You're building a game or some kind of an available app, whatever it is. Yeah. So it's just crazy.
Yeah. I'm sure that's going to end well. I mean, there's no risk for disaster on any of that. So
no, none at all. Not at all. Before we go to the next article, though, you bring up Shakespeare. We saw Anne Juliet musical over the weekend, and it was lovely. Like, I recommend it to everyone.
What is it?
Anne Juliet. It's basically Romeo and Juliet, but Juliet doesn't die. Decides not to kill herself.
Oh, that's great.
And they go on with the story after that. And William Shakespeare and William Shakespeare's wife, Anne Hathaway, are stars in the production itself.
Oh my gosh.
They're fighting over writing the ending and stuff. I don't want to give anything away, but highly recommend. And by the
totally
way,
fun.
Matt, I'm going to get the guy's name who did all the music. Max somebody, who's written more number one songs over the past 30 years than anyone else. Every song except for there's one original. Every song was a number one song that we all know by Pink or Backstreet Boys or Celine Dion or whatever. They've all been. It's so all the music, and it's very good.
That's nice. That's nice. It reminds me very much of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead, which is another stopper. Which is basically
it's not as many number one hits.
No, it's not a musical. It's basically Hamlet from their point of view. They're both characters in Hamlet, and it's basically Hamlet from their point of view, which is great. I love that sort of alternative point of view storytelling. It's totally fun.
So I'm sure it's playing in LA right now. You should go see it.
All right.
So, there you go.
Anyway, so let's get to the next story here, which is related. So we are kind of pairing these things together.
Okay, hold on.
I know.
Let me see what we got here. Let's try this one.
Here we go. All right. Okay. AI slop. It's the new brute force attack. This is a wonderful new story.
I don't know if that one worked.
That was a little sleepy.
I don't sleepy. Maybe.
Anyway, our story here.
We'll try again next time.
Of our favorite new media outlet, 404 Media. The headline here: AI slop is a brute force attack on the algorithms that control reality. This is a content story for sure. As we see sort of the generated AI, the images they chose for the front page of this are just
hideous and all real and all AI.
Yeah, chef's kiss perfect. The article opens up by saying, consider for a moment that this AI-generated video of a bizarre creature turning into a spider, turning into a nightmare giraffe instead of a busy mall, has been viewed 362 million times. That means that this short reel has been viewed more times than every single article 404 has ever published, combined and multiplied tens and tens of times. It just goes on through a bunch of like, oh my God, it's just so crazy. These images.
Some of these,
that they put in there.
some of these examples, I haven't seen a lot of these AI
I have
driven
not either.
video, and they're scary, and
They're
it's
really
really,
creepy.
and they've all been
Yeah.
watched hundreds of millions of times. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
nuts.
any of these reels could have been and probably were made in a matter of seconds or minutes. Many of these accounts that post them post multiple times per day. There are thousands of these types of accounts posting thousands of these types of reels and images across every social media platform. Large parts of the SEO industry have pivoted entirely to AI-generated content, as has some of the internet advertising industry. They are using generative AI to brute force the internet, and it is working. One of the first types of cyber attacks anyone learns about is the brute force attack. And this is a type of hack that relies on rapid trial and error to guess a password. If a hacker is trying to guess a low phone number PIN, they are more likely an automated hacking tool will guess, 000, then 001, then 0002, and et cetera, until it's guessed correctly. And basically the article goes on to then talk about how this is very much similar to that in the sense that it's just flooding the internet with these AI images. And by the way, it's text too. It's not just images. It's text and other content as well. And this is really going to have a lot of ramifications for how valuable the internet is and what happens when AI starts learning from AI, right?
And
Yeah.
that's the thing.
What's your
And
take
by
on
the
this?
way, this is a very long article, but it's worth the read. There's the challenge with this type of article is you don't know what to do after you read it, but you believe it's a true going to happen. And basically the whole thing is that you have these AI content creators that are, instead of spending 5 hours or 6 hours on the perfect video, they're doing they're doing 30 videos in an hour, and they're cutting them all up, and they're using AI to learn to basically brute force this algorithm and to start showing, and they can do it at scale. And the algorithms are liking this because it's cheap content. It's basically, they call it like McDonald's content. It doesn't have to be great. It just has to be edible.
Yeah.
And that's what this content becomes. And the problem we're having is the platforms such as YouTube and TikTok and Facebook are incentivizing this kind of content creation because they are giving it, putting it on a pedestal and making
It's
it
a
available.
cycle. Yeah, it's a cycle, right? The more it
and
gets engaged with, the more it gets rewarded. So,
And you're actually seeing this in real time happen, where the majority of people that are watching TikTok or an Instagram reel or whatever are watching AI driven content that is not human made.
yeah.
And it's happening right now. And you're like, okay, you're a content creator. Where do you go with that? Like, do
Yeah.
you, and it's a big business, by the way, right now. They talk about one kid who's 17 that's making a ton of money off of this thing, just creating all these AI. And he's like, it's totally silly for you to actually use human involvement to do any kind of videos today. Just use AI, use some prompts, and off you go. And of course, you see there's like 30 videos they link to in this article, and they're
Yeah.
all AI, and they all have like 100 million views.
Here's the thing too, because guess what's coming, if it's not already here, is the AI eyeball, right? In other words, very soon, as agentic AI starts to take off in some meaningful way, other than sort of the sort of vaporware that it is in most cases now, but as it really starts to get real traction here, you're going to start to have AI, like where I can go out and say, hey, listen, just go out and by the way, this some of this actually exists today, but you can say, go out. Mike Kaput over at Marketing AI Institute actually posted on this, where he says what he does for his X feed is to actually tell his AI, go out and look at the hundreds or thousands of posts in any given day, and basically come back with later and give him a filtered feed of the ones that he would find the most interesting. And so it's going out and quite honestly, viewing all of these posts, so it's getting engaged with by a bot, and then basically, which of course then may or may not feed the algorithm to show it more and more. So pretty soon you're going to have AI creating content for AI, and AI, it's just going to be this vicious circle where it starts to get, it's not just spidered, it's actually viewed by a bot. And so you start getting AI viewed by AI, and you get you literally get into a cycle where the whole thing becomes nonsense.
Yeah. So where do we go? Where do we go from here?
It's
you have
such
agents doing
such an
it. Yeah. I mean,
important, it's such an important reminder for us that the human generated content and humans, the people, are going to become the differentiator. They really are. I firmly believe that it's going to become what is most valued, right? When you're live in person, you have a relationship with someone, you have you're able to speak with them directly. It's just going to have a different level of experience. And you're, I just wrote about this for CMI, where basically my line was, the storyteller is going to become more important than the story, because it's basically going to be, the content will be the content, and it has to be great, but it also, and probably more importantly now, has to come from something that you trust and want to relate to, which is going to be another human.
yeah. I mean, I guess that's all we can hang our hats on.
That's
right
it.
now,
Right?
is the
That's what
fact
you
that
have to believe.
if we can tell better stories, that is the opportunity.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you're going to have a whole large generation, including our generation, of
Yeah.
people that are just glued to their feed, and they're getting 95% of that is just made up AI content slop.
Yeah.
That's just keeping us entertained and stops us from accomplishing anything worthwhile in life.
It's here's the theme, and this is becoming the theme of the show. It's be bold, right? You've got to be bold, and it's funny enough, we're going to talk about this next week in our special episode about content, the future of content creators and what we would do if we were starting today. So
that's a good topic. We should do that. Oh, we are.
Oh, we are.
Yeah,
we are going to do that. Yeah.
Good.
All right. Let's get to our question. We have a question from a audience member, and it was such a great question. We wanted to cover it on the show. So thank you, Morgan, out there. Thank you for the wonderful question, and we're gonna use it. Next time, please give it to us in a voicemail. We want it in that
voicemail or video. We'll do either one.
Video.
We'll put you up on screen. You got
people love the multimedia. I hear that audio and video is like a thing, so we need that. Anyway, question from Morgan, and I'm not going to do a voice from Morgan because I was told not to by the producers of the show. Anyway, the question came. It says, many years ago, I participated in press training, where I learned how to talk to the press effectively so that they would be more likely to convey my core messages to their audience. One of the things that I learned was never to align with any political party, because the other party would write you off, and the party with which you aligned would take you for granted. That seemed like sage advice to me. Now, we are seeing large businesses align with political parties. Tesla is an example, but now Steak and Shake, a fast food establishment, is another. And then he points to an article from NBC News where it speaks to the fact that Steak and Shake has now, I guess, become a bit of, taken a side here with RFK and Elon Musk, and basically really sort of, highlighting their alignment with that thinking. It's fascinating. Do you have a take on this? I mean, I definitely have a take on the current environment with this, but I'm curious what you think.
It's such a challenging topic. I think that depending on what your mission is and your vision as an organization will drive ultimately where you plant your flags, if you will. Like Patagonia has always been environmentally friendly, and if it's Southwest, until recently, was always like the democratization of the skies, which they seem to be changing that because they're now charging for bags.
Yeah, right.
But I think I guess I would change that and say not political party, but issues. And I think it's okay for a brand to get involved at issues that are important to them based on their mission. And that has been the case for a long, long time. I think what we're seeing change is you're seeing brands, to your point with Steak and Shake, are getting behind individuals which represent parties. I think that is a mistake forever, because the wind changes really, really fast. And you might be on the right side of it on Tuesday, on Wednesday, you're on the wrong side of it. But issues stay around for a long, long time. So I would say, my brand advice would always be don't put your love behind a political figure or a party. But if there's an issue that's really important to you as an organization and the people that work for your organization, absolutely. So I guess that's how I would look at it.
Yeah,
I don't know what your take
I
is.
think that's. Well, here's what I would say is that it's the advice that Morgan got. I agree with. It's sage
Yep.
advice, right? I mean, but I would hazard a guess, because this was the way I was always trained in brand and PR and that sort of thing, which is the advice of don't getting aligned was unless the brand is aligned, right? And in other words, if your brand isn't going to take a position on an issue or have a core belief, because remember, it's the point of view or the belief that gets politicized, not the other way around. And so here's a great example of that: Chick-fil-A, right? So Chick-fil-A forever has operated from a very Christian point of view. They're not open on Sundays, and they basically, their employee values and their value statements and mission statements are all very aligned in Christianity, and they live and die on that hill. And they're not secret about it, right? They're not, sure. And so, but that's a belief that on occasion gets politicized. And so it gets politicized or not, but they don't suffer because of it, because they just stay true to that core belief. Sure. Same with a brand, and I'll talk a little bit about this later. Somebody like a Ben & Jerry's, or to your point, a Patagonia, or there's REI, and there's all kinds of Nike. There are all kinds of brands that have aligned themselves with movements or beliefs or a distinct point of view that can be politicized, rather than getting involved with, to your point, the individuals who are politicizing it. And that, I think, is the safer bet. If you're a brand and you want to, like, your brand mission, either because you're a founder, the CEO, the leadership of that organization, whatever, and you want to align yourself around a distinctive point of view or a belief in anything, whatever that thing is, that's your right. It's it's one given to you by the Supreme Court, that that corporations can have opinions and have free speech and have a voice and all of that. And so I don't begrudge anybody doing that from a freedom of speech and the way that they want to take their product and service to market. But just, there are implications, right? You have to be willing to live with the implications of that. But I 100% agree with you that if you align yourself with those individuals, like an RFK, or like, any individual that is politicizing much more than what your core belief may be in, right? Because remember, they're out there doing all kinds of things. The risk is much, much higher that they're going to do something that's not even related. Like the idea that Tesla or Elon Musk and Steak and Shake, the one thread that they might have in common for Steak and Shake and Elon Musk is easily snapped, because Elon does something else completely off topic. Yep. But Steak and Shake is going to be associated with that. And so,
good point.
That's the risk that you take. And so you can do it, but I think it's highly, highly risky to do it.
What makes your point, and we talked about this last year with the whole Bud Light partnering with influencers, and they got the backlash, it's because it wasn't part of that kind of openness, was never part of Bud Light's vision. It's just all of a sudden we're like, oh, we think there's an opportunity with this audience. Go.
That's right.
And they quickly pulled back, and now you've got Shane Gillis and Post Malone ads.
That's right.
Bud Light, because they're trying to go back to where they were before.
That's exactly. It's such a great example, because they lost both people, right? Bud Light lost both. They lost the LGBTQ community because they didn't commit to it, and they lost the the other community,
Kid Rock community,
the Kid Rock community. Good way to put it. The Kid Rock community, because they tried to take advantage of it and use it. So because they didn't have that as a core belief of the brand, it didn't work for any of their audiences, which is really at the heart of the advice that Morgan was getting, and I think is still sage advice. Morgan,
great question. Thank you so much. Yeah. Submit your questions at thisoldmarketing.com.
Let's get quickly to our winners and losers here, and we'll do this quickly.
because I can go first because mine is related to what we just talked about. And then we'll get into rants and raves here. So this is where we pick a winner from the week of marketing or a loser from the week of marketing. And I'll go quickly because it does, like I said, segue nicely. Basically, this is coming. There's a lot of outlets that are reporting on this, but this is coming from the today.com, which is ostensibly, I guess, just NBC. But anyway, Ben & Jerry's says its CEO was fired over the company's political posts. The Vermont-based ice cream company says its parent company, Unilever, is attempting to silence its social mission. Ben & Jerry's claims its CEO was wrongly fired because of the ice cream company's progressive political stance. In an amended complaint filed Tuesday in U.S. District Court for the Southern District of New York, Ben & Jerry's accused its parent company, Unilever, of violating its contractual obligations when it removed CEO David Stever without properly consulting the company's independent board of directors. Ben & Jerry's filed the initial version of this complaint in November 2024, accusing Unilever of silencing its public statements in support of a, quote, peace and a permanent and immediate ceasefire and the safe passage of Palestinian refugees amid the Israel-Hamas war. According to a letter filed at the court, Unilever is expected to file a motion to dismiss it. It also announced in March 2024 it was looking to sell Ben & Jerry's and its other ice cream brands, including Breyers and Magnum. So I think very quickly here, this is a big loser for Unilever, just full stop, because there's no good outcome from this. Basically, the press alone is just bad outcome. It's a bad outcome for Ben & Jerry's. It's a bad outcome for their valuation of their brands. It's a bad outcome for Ben & Jerry's. It's just a loser all the way around, because doing this just shows that they have no spine, no belief, and no sort of direction here. So because they're trying to sell the ice cream brands, this is just a bad business move. And it's a bad business move for Ben & Jerry's because it's just bad press. And it's just a bad business move for that CEO and for Unilever, generally speaking, because it just looks awful. It just looks like, it just looks stupid. So there you go. This is a great example of yet another reason to, they knew what they were getting when they bought Ben & Jerry's has not been shy about their beliefs and what they believe in. And so they knew what they were getting. And so you don't, anyway, it baffles me sometimes, the decisions that
sometimes you just don't have to overthink it either. It's like if somebody bought Content Marketing Institute and said, I'm changing all the colors to purple. Like you would be like, what? It just doesn't make any sense at all to do that. By the way, Morning Brew talked about this issue, and they said in the beginning, it said Cherry Garcia. I'm like,
oh, no.
I was like, that's pretty good.
That's good. That's Marketing Brew. That's good. That's good.
My marketing loser is really, really quick, and it's the NFL, which still they do different than any other league, and they wait so long to publish their actual schedule of games.
Yeah.
If you look at the Premier League in England, if you look at Major League Baseball, if you look at NBA, they all, at least as soon as the season's done, you know exactly where and when all the games are going to be played, so people can schedule their lives if they care. If you have fans, if you don't, that's fine. But if you're a fan, you want to know: do I want to go to that city? Do I want to support that team? Do I want to watch? Do I want to get this television package? Whatever it is, NFL waits until after the draft every year to do it, which means you only get 3 months or whatever to prepare, even if you want to go to an outside game. And I think that it's the stupidest marketing move on the planet. They know the dates, folks.
Oh, sure.
They just don't publish them because we know where they're playing. You know what a home game is and away game is. You just don't know when it's going to be.
Right.
Why
here's the thing. The dates. They know everything, right? They know the dates. They know where the games are going to be played, and they know the times the games are going to be played. So it's not like they're trying to resolve anything. They know exactly what's going to happen.
But they won't tell fans. And I am just so fed up with football right now. Oh, can't stand it. Okay. Anyways.
All right. There you go.
Yeah. There you go.
There you go. All right. Let's quickly get to our rants and raves, where Joe and I go off on a little bit of a rant or a little bit of a rave over something that makes us feel like, oh, I don't know, we got something out of the JFK Files, or we didn't get something out of the JFK Files. I keep waiting for something, but I guess it's not going to happen.
It's a lot of documents. I'm sure AI is going.
Oh, it's a great use case for AI. Big fantastic note. Yeah, it's like
go through. Is there anything in here that hasn't been published before?
Exactly. Oh, great point. That's a great point. Yeah. Okay. Do you want to go first, or shall I go first?
I'll go first. And okay. I posted this yesterday on LinkedIn because I am so dismayed by this decision.
Yeah.
But this is my rant of the week, and here it is. I'm going to read some of this, but so it's on Voice of America. If you're not familiar with Voice of America, it began in 1942 during World War II to counter much of the Nazi propaganda around the world. And since then, Voice of America has spread American ideals, and by the way, music as well, to millions not located in the United States. And how many millions? Over 350 million listen to the messages from Voice of America in 48 different languages. And just to put this in perspective, Fox News gets about 5 million people a week to watch their television. And so this is 70 times more that Voice of America reaches. And so really the importance of it, I believe it's maybe the greatest content marketing example we've ever seen, because it helps build support and fandom for America. It's one of the very few silver bullets we have for freedom and democracy, where we can go and travel into state-sponsored media outlets and get a message of that's different, that's outside of what they're normally hearing, and hopefully spreading a message of democracy and what America stands for. And just so you know, a couple of days ago, funding for Voice of America has been discontinued, and it will no longer exist. But I want to make sure that people know about this, that I really do believe, I think you could put this up with one of the best content marketing examples we've ever seen over 80 years of content production. And what's interesting is I get a lot of posting and comments on my LinkedIn. They're just saying, hey, when I was over in this country, it was the only way that I could listen to what's going on in the United States. Hey, I was an immigrant and I listened to it. It made a big impact on my life. Hey, I was in the armed forces. The stories are fantastic. And it's the stories that we're not going to hear that they're the tragic ones, because there's a content desert that's being created that somebody else is going to fill. And it's going to be somebody 100%. That the United States doesn't want to fill that gap. Let's just put it out there. And I think it's just not getting, in my opinion, this is not getting enough coverage. Everybody today is talking about the dismantling of the Department of Education, which is hugely important. But this, our communication effort for the United States of America, has been dismantled. Really, really critically important. Yeah, we need to know about these things.
It is amazing to me, because this isn't a right or left issue. This is objectively stupid. This is objectively stupid. It's just objectively idiotic to do this. I mean, by the way, it's not just VOA, right? Because there are ancillaries that have also lost their funding. Radio Free Europe, the Middle East Radio Network. There's a whole network of Voice of America type programs. All of them were defunded. It wasn't.
And by the way, I want to make it clear too, because people will say, "Oh, it's costing us money." I want to tell you that that whole program costs less than what we pay Tesla in subsidies in 1 month.
Yeah, that's right.
So don't even say that it costs so much if you look at it from a different viewpoint. So
yeah, anyways, the people who say it costs too much had no idea how much it cost to begin with, right? It's like,
what is it saving? What is it? I mean, here's the thing. Some things, I mean, we talked about the impact of storytelling. Some of these things can't be measured. You can't say, oh, it saved 5 people's lives. This had to save millions of people's lives. Yeah. People don't go to war in certain cases because this is out there. So, anyway.
Well, the influence. Just the influence. Anyway, we get off on another rant here. Just objective.
So anyways, that is my rant of the week.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. I'm glad you did. I'm very glad you did. I was very glad to see that in the show notes as we were putting this together, because it's such an important thing. And I agree with you. It's being undercovered for sure.
It's our job. This is our area too, so we can promote.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. All right. Very quickly here, I just wanted to. So this week, the Adobe Summit is happening, where Adobe has every year, and it comes out and sort of launches all of its new initiatives and shows off all its new stuff and all that kind of stuff. And it's in Las Vegas. My wonderful colleague and good friend Kathy McKnight is there, soaking it all up. She is one of the best analysts on the technology side that I know of. And she's, I'm getting fun, interesting comments back from her during watching all the keynotes, and certainly with the analyst relations group and all that kind of stuff. And anyway, they launched this week their AI agents for marketing. It's just another indication, because Salesforce has done this now, Adobe has done this now. There's others that are out there doing this now. And the whole idea of agents in AI, I know it's coming. But it's so funny to me how desperate companies are to get sort of a first mover status on this stuff, that what they're calling agents are just not agents. And so they're confusing the market. Like so many things in AI, it is really confusing the marketplace. Like I'll ask the average marketer or the average business owner or the average CEO, what is agentic AI? And they have no idea. Like nobody is really doing a good job. By the way, I'm trying. I'm writing a whole big long piece on agentic AI and what it really means and where it really is. But nobody is out there sort of teaching like the nuts and bolts of what it really is. Because right now, for the most part, agentic AI is nothing more than the macros that I used to write on WordPerfect back in the 1990s. I mean, it is ostensibly just automated content getting posted to different places. That's all it is. Or chatbots, which we've had for years now.
Yeah.
And so the whole idea of agentic AI is really interesting. It's a big threat, as we've talked about on this show, and as I've talked about ad nauseum, in terms of jobs and the short-sightedness of companies and how they're, getting rid of coders and all that kind of stuff. Plays a big role in that, and we should be preparing for it, and we should be thinking about it, and we should be really doing some thoughtful reflection and introspection on what that all means for our businesses and our workflows and our marketing strategies and all of that. And all I'm seeing is more hype. And when I read the press release and I read the articles covering the press release about what Adobe released, I take away all the adverbs, take away all the adjectives. And basically it said, we launched a couple of new chatbots, and that's kind of what they did. And, I don't know that I can blame them for that, because they got it. I guess from a marketing perspective, they kind of have to, but man, is it just clouding the reality of what's really going on out there. And going all the way back to the top of the show when we talked about this with coding, it's just not that helpful for us as consumers of this, of people who will be impacted by this. It is just not a time that there's a lot of help being given by big tech and the innovators in the AI space. They're just not being terribly helpful.
I'm going to get this. I don't have the exact research, but you'll get the point. There was a thing where they took the top S&P top 500 companies, and they looked at their press calls.
Yeah.
And so quarterly calls, and they said, well, how many times and who and how many times did they say AI? So like 2018, it was like 3.
Yeah.
And then now today it's like
90%,
90% of them, and they say it so many times, and it's crazy. And the thing is, you talk about the value of storytelling, they're getting rewarded for that, because their stock price
100%.
is generally going up the more you talk about AI. So I get your point about Adobe.
I know startups. I won't throw any of them under the bus, but I absolutely know startups in the tech space and the MarTech space who literally changed their top level domain to .ai and put AI in their company name, and then went out and got more money. Went out and got venture funded because now they have AI. It's like their technology didn't change one bit, but now they have AI and they're focused on AI. And now
it's very similar to what happened in 99 and 2000.
I know. It feels very frothy.
I forgot the name of the company that just changed their name to .com, and then their stock price went up 1,000%, whatever. And then of course went all the way down to the bottom. So, all right. Good show. What do you got going on?
I got work going on. It's been great. Spring has sprung here in Southern California, so I'm going to get outside and get away from screens for a while. But other than that, it's just business as usual as we go through the next week. How about you?
We're taking a little trip.
That's right. That's why we have a special show next week.
Going to Europe next week, and I'm stacking up on my Canadian gear, and I'm trying to act more Canadian.
Okay. Good.
I think I'll be greeted better by our European friends.
Wear a big old Canadian
if I have a
flag,
Toronto
certainly.
Blue Jays
Yeah.
hat on instead of a
Good for
Cleveland
you.
Guardians hat on. But
Do
hey,
apologize.
no,
Do apologize to the Europeans
I'm
for
gonna
us,
see.
dude. Yeah.
I'm apologizing to anyone I see. So that's all.
Yeah.
That's all I can do right now.
There you
So
go.
there-
There you go. All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody, for hanging out. And we were going to see you next. And as I mentioned, yes, we are going to have a special episode next week. We're going to talk about content creators. And if Joe and I were starting over today as a content creator, what would we be doing different? What would we be doing to grow our audience and become a content creator or a content entrepreneur in 2025? So I hope you'll tune in for that next week. And before we see you again next week, just remember, everybody, it's your story to tell. Tell it well. We'll see you next week on This Old Marketing.
Hey, thanks a lot for making it this far in this week's episode, and thank you all for being a part of This Old Marketing. You can check out all the show notes of what we talked about today at thisoldmarketing.com, and it's also where you can leave us a review or a voicemail. We need those reviews and comments on whichever platform you follow us on. And if you haven't followed the podcast, please go do that and make sure you catch the latest and greatest episodes every Friday morning. We're on Apple and Spotify and all your other favorite podcatchers, of course, but we'd love it if you went over and subscribe to us on YouTube. That's right, YouTube. youtube.com/@thisoldmarketing. We'll see you again next week, folks, with another episode of This Old Marketing.